friends, and welcome to the pilot episode of the Sports Advocates, the official sports podcast for Manistee and Benzie counties both. I'm Manistee news advocate and Benzie County record patriot, sports reporter Mitch Vosburg. Joined for me at a perfect 90 degree angle. I majored in journalism, not geometry, for a reason. The sports editor McLain Moberg. McLain, we're talking this segment here on Tuesday. How we feeling?
How's it going, man? I'm excited to get started and start giving these people some more sports content.
Absolutely. So, what's this going to look like? Well, the industry we're in right now is kind of evolving to a point where we just can't put things in a newspaper. So, we got to find a way to get creative of how we, tell these stories, how we get our opinions out there, how we provide our analysis. So, we decided, you know what? Let's try a podcast out. And we're just hoping, fingers crossed, it goes better than Brett Maher trying to kick an extra point against Tampa Bay on Monday. Holy smokes, that was a rough game. We'll get to that a little later in the show. But before we get to our first guest, since we have a combined, 2.5 years here in this coverage area, play a little quick game here. 2 truths and a lie. So, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to throw 3 things I've done in my life at McLain, and McLain will do the same to me. 2 of them are true, 1 of them is false. He has to figure out the lie. So, you ready?
Yes, sir.
So, 2 truths and a lie. I have been defecated on by an alligator. I've been to 8 MLB ballparks, and I became an NFL owner 2 days after graduating college.
Well, that's a toughie, Mitch. If I had to guess, I would go with the first one. I do not believe you've been defecated on by now.
Well, that's a funny story because it's actually true.
It's true?
It's true. I'll share the quick story. My brother was doing spring training baseball down in Florida. My family and I took a little trip. We did like a fan boat tour of some little swamp area. We had a chance to hold a little alligator, and the next thing I know, there's this random speck on my pants, and the alligator was maybe like 5 feet. It was a tiny little thing, but still, my brother still laughs at that so much. It's embarrassing.
That's ridiculous.
It's nuts.
That's ridiculous. I don't even know how one comes into contact with that.
I've
never been close to that in my life, being defecated on by another animal.
Yeah, it's a funny story. I love it.
Well, mine are pretty simple. Probably easier than that. Number 1, I graduated from Michigan State University. 2, I saw Trouble with the Snap live. And 3, the only bone I've ever broken was my left arm at 2 years old.
I know you went to a lot of MSU games because you did go to MSU. I feel like you've broken more than just a bone in your arm and you were 2.
That is incorrect. It's just the one bone. I did not see Trouble with the Snap live. Funny story there. I was going to school in Flint, living with my buddy, and I was at work at a small restaurant there called Little Joe's. So I was actually working and cooking on the line, flipping burgers and I was coming in and out of the kitchen. So that was a funny kind of thing. It was the only time customers probably consistently saw one of the cooks. I watched that live in the middle of the restaurant wearing an apron covered in Mexican food.
I was also working, but I was out of Five Guys, and that was the day after my car caught fire, and trust me, at the time, I was kind of in tears. No lie. My lie was I've only been to 6 MLB ballparks, not 8. Been to Comerica, Kauffman, Guaranteed Rate, Wrigley, Miller Park, not the family new name, that's awful, and the old Turner Field almost got knocked out by a line drive by Michael Bourne. I'll talk about that. But, yeah, so first big guess. You excited for it?
Oh, I can't wait, and I think the people are going to love this one.
Oh, man, when you think about, we're in basketball season right now. Great time of the year. When you think about basketball coaches, I've been here a long time. There's obviously a couple names that come to mind, but I think our first guest here, you mentioned it earlier before we recorded, if there's a Mr. Basketball of Manistee County, I think this is the guy that, it's him. I think he's him. I mean, there's a couple names you could throw out there, too. We'll get to them this year, too. I'm excited for that. But I think we should stop teasing people. Let's get the interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Erickson. Sports Advocates. When you talk high school basketball in Manistee County, there's a lot of big names out there. But I think right now, for our first episode, I think we pinned down, in my opinion, the godfather of high school basketball in Manistee County. Currently head coach of the Manistee Catholic Central Sabres girls varsity basketball team right now is 9-3. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Erickson. Todd, Thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday. How are we feeling today?
No, it's good. Thanks. I'm glad I get to be a part of something starting new. It's just terrific. Thanks for asking.
Gotcha. So right now we're talking 9-3 record. 3 losses come by a combined 4 points. As of right now, I mean, how do you feel the season's going for you?
Well, it's good. I mean, we've hit some bumps. The one loss with Marion, we did not have Kaylin there, so we learned how to play better without her. And both of them on the 1-point losses that they were, someone was just. I mean, it isn't someone, but something was out of position, or we weren't focused enough. And I think that's a little bit on this group. And the coaching staff were trying to dial them in. Great week of practice this week, but both those losses just. Inopportune things happen, but it still goes back to the turnover and rebounding. And for us, it's the free throw line by far. And we've worked better the last 3 games. We're in the 60s, so we're happier with that. We're not where I want to be, and we're working real hard at practice on that one. And the 2-point loss, we had a look. It's the first time 3 guards haven't scored that well, and it wasn't like they weren't getting their shots, because our shots numbers were pretty much the same when they play zone with us, because I keep track of that. They just weren't hitting, and it is what it is. We continue. Wasn't the last game of the season, and we keep going. But it's a good group. Good group.
Todd, you talk about some, I guess, untimely, maybe some out of positioning and whatnot, and I guess at this point in the season for you, like, what are you kind of looking at team chemistry wise, and what are you looking to build as you kind of get down the stretch here amongst the girls from that camaraderie perspective, so that maybe players are in right spots at right times and whatnot, which is hopefully I'm sure something you're looking to achieve by March.
Oh, by far, we've changed that starting lineup almost every game, and the last 2 games we've kept that 5th one there, and the rotations for coming in off the bench have seemed to be a little more solid. And we look at that, and this week, we're still missing somebody every week when we're starting out, and hopefully she's back. It's just that bug that's going through all the schools. But that, I think, is going to help us down the stretch, because some of the kids have had to play in some opportune moments where we, foul trouble, which hasn't been bad this year. But we get in that situation where if someone's not there, okay, how do we respond, and who do we respond it with? And so we get to look at that pretty heavy. And right now we feel pretty solid about the last week or 2, what we put on the floor to start and how we rotated in. But all that changes when a foul trouble or an injury or a sickness comes in. Then okay, we're back to square one. But we got people in place now, we think, and we get to that 18th game and somewhere in there, 17th, 18th, 19th game, we should. I'm hoping we got a pretty good handle on who can fill what. But we're still working on stuff that we haven't used in a game yet, and we try to flash it at practice quite hard, but in a game when we have the opportunity, we will. And we've always done that, and sometimes we might not run that offense all year long, and we never used it, but we keep it in case we need it, and that's how we've always tried to keep one step ahead on the offense and the defense, at least by 2 sets.
Coming off a 2-point loss to Brethren, really good basketball team, not a bad body on that roster. Walking in now against Big Rapids Crossroads Academy on Friday. You beat them first time around, but as I'm looking at right now, they won 5 out of their last 6 because the Spirit, 5 out of the last 6. The Spirit opponent score isn't up yet. But what's the challenge going in to come try and bounce back on Friday?
Well, I reminded them. I said the Thompson girl's back. She was out with she's a great runner on cross country track, and she kind of leads by example on that team. So she's back, because I've been watching the scores, and okay, I just told Scott and Phil the other night, I go, she's back. I said, because they're getting into the 50s, and I go, they can't do it without her. And she's always up around that 20 points a game, and she's tough to contend for how quick she is, and she's not a short gal. She's taller, like 5'8", 9", and she does well. So we reminded them last night at practice that she's back, and we got to contain, and don't look by last game scores, look at what we have to do and what's been going on, because they've had some good games in the last few days, so it'll be a different challenge from when we played them the first time.
Gotcha. So let's go back here a little bit. How does Todd Erickson get his start in the coaching in the first place?
I actually had to remember this. Phil Johnson and I, who's been with me a long time, and Scotty also, Jeremy only about 4 or 5 years. Phil and I, we both graduated Manistee High, and the varsity coach, Phil had played under him. He wasn't there when I was there. And I'm only a year older than Phil. He said, hey, would you coach my freshman team? So Phil gets a hold of me, and he says, hey, would you like to coach a freshman team? I said, yeah, why not? I'll give you a hand. So we went back and ran the freshman that year, and that's where the start was. And we went to one game that sticks out in my mind, way back, is we go to Traverse City Central, which now is Traverse City West Junior High, but it's Traverse City Central. And we got to the gym, and those freshmen we had were the kids that didn't make the JV team, but they were good kids and they worked hard. We walked in, I said, well, they must be getting done with it looks like varsity practice, No, it was them warming up for us to get there. And if you remember this name, Mark Bramer, goes on, he played at Central, then he went to play for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
And he had another guy just as big as him, and I said to Phil, I go, those guys belong on the varsity because they were just huge. And so I said to Phil, we're always going to remember that we got to coach against Mark Bramer, Then he went on to play at Central, then at Buffalo Bills. So that's when we started. And then I think it was just they changed coaches. So Phil and I, we just had the freshmen. It was no big deal. And I think he took a new job. And I then went into junior high girls at Catholic Central. My wife got asked to coach the junior high teams. And she goes, hey, would you like to take one and I'll take the other? I said, sure. So I took the 7th grade. And she took the 8th, and that was in '83, and we had fun. We had a good group of kids, and I remember we were playing Benzie then, and we were still a small school, but we were playing Benzie, and I had Kelly Blazic and Jill, a bunch of them, and we were down 22-2 at half. I got in the locker room and I said, listen, you're as good as they are, but you got to play defense, and that's what's killing you. I said, you got to get out on the floor and run, play defense hard, and just take your best shots. We ended up losing 29-27. So I said, that's kind of like we're burned in. I said, okay, we can make some stuff out of it. But the next year, I decided to build a home in '84 that year, and so I didn't go back. And then in '85, Dale Edmondson played in the men's league, which was huge back in the day. There was a lot more people in town. And I was always against Dale, and we go at it pretty hard, And at the end of the game, it was, hey, I want to talk to you after the game. I said, geez, what did I do, Because he wore a knee brace. He always cut me. The knee brace, because back then they had the steel showing. I go, man, I'm the one bleeding here. And he said, would you be interested in coming to Catholic Central? I go, for what? He goes, I want you to coach my junior high boys team. I go, hold it. What's up with that? I go, and how am I going to be accepted? Everybody knows I was a Manistee High kid. He goes, I don't care. And Dale was point blank. That's how he looked at stuff. I really enjoyed coaching with him at the lower level, talking to him all the years. He did varsity, I did varsity. But he said, you're fundamentally sound, and he said, that's all I want. I don't care if you win a game. So I started with him and Dave Peterson, and then later Paulie Sodorsky came in with me, and Dave went to the varsity, and I must have did that 4 years, and then Jan got asked to do the JV girls. And she said, why don't you help me? And my niece was on that team, so I did. And we changed up what was being run at the JV level. And then the second year, she goes, you're the one coaching, just coach. She goes, they're listening to you more than me. So and we just had Kelly. So she said, I'll be to the games when I can. And she still enjoys going to all the games. So then I ran the JVs, and then the varsity stepped down in the middle of the year. And then the athletic director said, do you want to take the varsity? I said, I'd be honored to have a shot at it. And he goes, well, I'll find somebody for JVs. I go, no, the deal is I get both teams. I said, I'm not leaving what I got. We were 9-0 there at the JV level. And I said, I'm not giving those girls up. That isn't right for that either. So brought in Mike Welch come in at that year, and I don't think Phil was with me yet at that time, and Scott had not been with me yet. So we finished up the year. I think I brought old player in that was up there, and we finished up that year. The JVs went 16-3. We played 19 games that year. In the varsity, we squeaked out a couple wins. They were down. And then we just changed the philosophy to what we felt was the best thing, and that's how it started rolling.
Todd, last year you got your 400th win on January 26th against Big Rapids.
Oh.
One thing I wanted to sort of ask you about is through that win and doing some research and learning about you, learning that you used to give roses after every win.
Yeah.
Now, where does that come from? How did that start? And I guess, ultimately, why did it stop?
It started with Mary Lou Racine, who had Rich's Daisy a Day. And she's a big sport cast after she went to Catholic Central. And we were in a good year, and she she showed up with roses after a win. And I go, well, thank you. And the girls all thank her and stuff. And she whispered in my ears, keep winning. So we kept winning, and she kept buying roses. And she owned a flower shop, so it was a little economically better than most. And from there on, we just kept it going. Well, then we decided this got a little costly for the coaches. And so we told the kids, carnations every win. And you win the district, it's roses again. So that hung on for a long time. And it kind of stopped because of the lean years that we had, a couple, not to make the kids feel like when they look up there where the numbers were. And we thought, okay, would that be a negative thing? And in fact, it was like 3 weeks ago, I was talking to Scott and Phil. I said, we should bring that back this year. And we might. I mean, we still got enough season left to do that. But that's how it kind of started, and that's how it kind of ended, because we thought there might be a bad effect because we were, my worst season except for like 4 or 5 years ago was 4-16. But I always said that class I probably had the most fun with it sometimes, because there's a difference. They came to practice every day to work hard and had a smile on their face. And little Chrissy Bailey ended up being in AP, UPI, Traverse City Record Eagle, the Free Press, and we were 4-16. We almost upset McLain Christian in the tournament. And we shot 7 of 27 at the free throw line. And they beat us by 7. I go, the 7 number's killing me. And she was the one that spearheaded that team. And she was only 5'4", left-handed. And she just did everything for us, but she made the other kids go. So, I think we gave roses after the year. Like the last day, I always give a flower on the last day. But it's just, that's where it kind of started, and that's where it's been. We thought about it, and so we thought about what can we do new. So we brought back going to a college game again, going back down to a shootout. Last year we did that, and the kids enjoyed it. We did it the year before at Saginaw. We went to Central this year. They really enjoyed that, so let's go to a game. And I might squeak, if time permitting and weather, we're thinking maybe we'll get them down to state and see if, because we know them people down there too. But that was a big thing, back in the day. The kids got a kick out of it. But it wasn't for any certain reason. It's just looking at how we're doing and would it affect our girls in the wrong way. And we don't want that to happen, because the group we got now, it's special, I would say, compared to the last several seasons. Nicole's kind of on staff with us now. She comes in. She played for me. She's getting to be a nice person to have it. I think she would be a good coach. But she'd be a new good coach, whatever level it would be. But she's good, and she was with that group that didn't get a lot of wins. They played hard, but we just didn't have enough kids. Some games we had 6 kids because there wasn't a lot of girls in the school at the time. So, but that's how that all started with the flower thing.
You mentioned that this group is special. What traits do you feel makes you believe that with this team?
Because of the age they were available. We use the 8th graders now. Monaca was doing it. Bear Lake's been doing it. The small schools are using them. And this year, we only had one 8th grader, and I said, she's not ready. And that was a borderline, because we needed like 2 more kids to go out. And so I said, well, we're going to try this without it and see if we can get more out of the group by making sure every day of practice they're challenged and try to get them in games. But 5 seniors, I think 4 in 8th grade were playing JVs, and 3 were playing varsity. But they could play. I mean, Leah could play, Kaylin could play. At that age, they were a little bit older in their, in their physicality of being able to handle the pressure and all that stuff. And so that group, the parents have been great parents, and you're thinking, they know this is the year we've been waiting for. And I tell them, I said, it's your time. But I said, we got to go out and play and prove it every night. And that's where it's a special group, but to see how they seasoned. And we could look at next year, because I'm always looking 2-3 years down the road anyway, see what's going on down below us. But this group, they can be special, and I think what we've been doing has been building every game, and I think our defense is becoming very much better. But some of our presses, we have a couple of stints in there now and then that don't work out great with us, but it's getting that right personnel in the right spot on that press. And we run 4 different presses, so that's what we've been working on too. We haven't used one at all yet. So, mix it up.
All right, Todd. Well, we want to, do a segment about getting to know you a little bit even more. First question for me would be, what's in your opinion, the best sporting event you've ever attended? Teams that, were playing each other, the year, the sport. What was that for you?
Well, 2 years ago, I got to go to the new Minnesota Viking Stadium. My dad was a Viking fan, so it's kind of, and you all know Danny Gustad, that family's all. And I had been down, I flew my dad out when I was working for the airlines. I flew him out to Minnesota when they just built the first one, that first dome, and it was smoke-free. And I said, Dad, it's really cool. One of the first one built. I said, it's all smoke-free, everything's good. And I had met a guy when I was with the airlines that lived out there, so we stayed with him. We still kept contact. But to take my dad there was huge for me. That was I took him out there twice, and that's probably the best. And last year, going to see the new one, I've seen one of my friends went with us because there were 16 of us that went, and he's hit a lot of college games, Michigan football stuff, at Ohio State, all the big ones. And we had the Vikings there, and he said, Todd, I've been to a lot of stadiums. I've never seen anything like this. The support that the Vikings fans give, he said, it's just unbelievable. And the pregame stuff that goes on, so that was real special. But I'm Michigan State basketball. I'm U of M at Michigan State. But he goes, how can you be both? I said, why can't you be both? I said, I support Central Michigan. My daughter went there. I said, if they're on TV, I'm watching them. So, but those going to state when I got to sit behind the Big Ten announcers that time, and Lupe set us up, and my daughter calls me, Dad, you're on television. I go, why? And she goes, well, you're right behind the Big Ten announcers. I go, oh. I said, well, don't look at the TV much then. I'm not one that likes the spotlight. I just would be. The kids go, Coach, we got a team picture coming. I said, you get a team picture when you win a district. That's a team picture.
I throw this question at everybody, and you are going to be no exception. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Ham, pepperoni, mushrooms, pineapple. That's the way I eat it.
Thank you. Somebody actually is right on that question. Thank you. What was the first concert you attended?
I think at a big venue. We went up to Castle Farms, Jan and I, and we seen Chicago and the Beach Boys.
Ooh.
And the Beach Boys played first. And then all the guys, when Chicago was playing, then they do the encore. All the guys from the Beach Boys came out, and they had all of them. There was 21 people up there performing at once, and I thought that was one of the coolest things I've seen.
Wow. Yeah, that does sound cool.
But favorite concert, ZZ Top, by far. I've seen them 5 times, and seen them a lot. I've seen a lot of different. We took my daughters to Huey Lewis and the News in Interlochen, and they go, oh, we don't want to go to that. So, come on, you might enjoy something different, some classic stuff. We got out, they had to buy the CD with their helmet. We got out the door.
Love that.
So,
biggest pet peeve?
On myself or the team or just on anything?
Sure. just for you.
If it's basketball, what did I miss? That we didn't take care of to lose that game. What did I miss? And I think about it. Coaches, had the same theory. Tommy Halley, great friend of mine. I gave him his first varsity basketball game as official. Came back from Wisconsin. Hooked him up with Bobby Fredericks, and you guys probably never got to meet him. Real good official in the area. And Tom come in, shirt, tie. And he said, Coach, I just came in from Wisconsin. My mom and dad live here. I said, yep, I know your dad. He goes, I'd like to do a varsity game for you. He said, I do varsity games over in Wisconsin. I said, you go hook up with Bob Fredericks, and you're in. So that's how, and now he's doing Big Ten. And I think that's the coolest thing. And as he's allowed to, they'll give us a game. But when you reach a certain plateau, and he does women's, he had to pick, then you can't do high school anymore. So, but I don't know why I got on that conversation, but that I always think of him because he was part of in the foundation of what we were doing. And a great clinician speaker, if you have him come in and talk to kids, okay, this is how the referees are seeing it, and I know this is how your coach might be seeing it and the parents, but this is how we see it to help you adapt to the game. And it's just great all-around guy. I'm really glad he's doing good. I mean, you see him watching doing Michigan State or Iowa or something, and that's been great. I kind of lost track there, going on a rant, didn't I?
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Good, Ted.
Last question from me. I look at the game of football. I see about 2,000 when spread offenses came in and the whole game changed. For somebody who's been around the basketball longer than McLain and I have even been a thought, how have you seen the game evolve?
Well, and oddly, I never thought I'd make the statement. It's always has a change. I mean, even on some of the rulings and what they've changed to. And just last week, somebody said, I heard the shot clock's coming. I said, I don't think so. I said, there's rumors about it, but bringing up Tom Halyard's name, because I had questioned Tommy at the beginning of the year. He said, Todd, we can't get it right at the college level. Why would we want to try to do it at the high school level? And I said, good answer. I'll stick with that one all the time. But just the change, I mean, I'm surprised. The biggest change was when they went from fall to winter. I think I'm still very negative on that. And I'm not that kind of person, but I think it's hurt boys basketball, girls basketball. I don't know about the volleyball content of it, if they had more girls playing at that time. But I think that's the biggest thing that I think it ruined the state of Michigan. I'm not afraid to say it. I just think they went backwards with that step. And my big argument on that was we played Leland, Michigan back in that era. Always good programs. Larry Glass is the dynasty coach, and he had his granddaughter playing Alicia Glass. And my argument was this, because the two gals that started that whole lawsuit said our daughters aren't getting enough, or girls aren't getting enough exposure because it's the opposite season. So that's what the whole precedence was. Well, they had huge money back in Grand Rapids. So, but my argument every time I talked about it was, well, then how did Penn State find Alicia Glass playing basketball and she played volleyball? I said, how did they find her in Leland, Michigan? I mean, come on, a community of 100 people, 1,000 people maybe. And I said, if you're good, they're going to find you. It doesn't matter what season you're playing. But I just think it's hurt the referees' part, too. I had a conversation with Tom Spencer a week or so ago. And I said to him, and everybody forgets about the officials. Those guys are doing 5-6 games a night, where before they did a football game, maybe 2 if you had a JV program, or if they didn't want to do JVs. And they did a volleyball game, 1 or 2. And not all those guys did that same sport. But now we've been less into with guys refereeing, and the crews are older, and we're very fortunate, I feel, the people we have in our area that still referee. And now you take those games, and January 31st is my bad date, because I go from here on in, those guys are starting to burn out, and it affects them, and it affects what's going on. And it's nothing against them. They're burnt out, and that has hurt because that decision was made, and they had no idea about that. And I said that back then, you're going to kill officiating. And I think that's true right now. I just think it's hurt it, and younger guys aren't getting it. Because the parents, and it goes to the parents too, before they're going to 2 basketball games a week, and it's a more intense environment in our area than, say, the volleyball part of it. I like volleyball. My daughter's played it. But now you're getting those parents in 4 or 5 nights in a gym, and the emotion of having the game called right and all that, I think it's raised to beat on the official, which is totally wrong. I'm very fortunate. I don't hear anything when I'm coaching, and I don't have a clue. And I only see 10 kids at once playing on the floor, and that's the only ones I worry about. And I've gone home, and you can check with my wife. Even in the days when we were filling that gym, I'd say, hey, we have a good crowd tonight? She goes, what? I said, do we have a nice crowd? She goes, yeah. I go, can't even tell you who's there. I don't even think about it. Doesn't bother. I don't hear it. And that's one good trait. I don't know how I got it, but that's been a very good one. I don't know what's going on around me. And we try to tell the kids that. And I had a player last week tell me, she goes, the only one I hear on the floor is you. Because I said, did you, because a parent asked me that one person was kind of yelling like kind of hard. And I thought it was towards her, and she goes, never heard him. I just listen for you. So that's good. If you get your kids dialed in on that. I think when kids are nervous playing, they hear that outside. But when they just concentrate on their job, I think it's quieter.
Perfect, man. Well, Todd, that's all from me. Mitch, do you have anything else?
No, I think we're actually all set here. You can catch the Manistee Catholic Central Sabres take on Big Rapids Crossroads Academy at 7 p.m. on Friday at the Sacred Gymnasium at Manistee Catholic Central. Todd, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being the first guest here.
No, I enjoyed it. I hope this blossoms for you. I hope it really picks up. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's for the kids. That's why I say everything's for the kids.
Absolutely.
Amen, brother. Amen. Amen.
This is going to be very fun going through Manistee and Benzie counties here, talking to many coaches. Appreciate you being here, Todd.
Oh, no, thank you.
All
All right, big thanks again to Mr. Todd Erickson for coming on, being our first guest. Again, the Sabres and the Cougars clash at 7 p.m. on Friday at the Sacred Gymnasium at Manistee Catholic Central High School. You can catch me there. I'll be the guy in the sidelines with the camera. But let's move on here. So if you are an avid reader of the Manistee News Advocate, you'll notice on Saturdays in print editions that McLain and I pick 5 games every week, and we try to see how we do betting-wise. So last week we started playoffs with super wildcard weekend. It wasn't really that super, but hey, it is what it is. Last week we were both 5-1 in the money lines, 4-2 in the spread. Somehow we were all on the same page, which I thought was pretty cool. So we're going to discuss our picks for the divisional round game here. All odds are provided by FanDuel. Again, please gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling problem or know anybody that does, please call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Again, that's 1-800-270-7117. Before we start, I will say our results may vary. So, McLain, throw it to us, my man.
Oh, man, it is the NFL divisional round. Another week of NFL picks. Everybody should be counting their lucky chickens that we still have football, but there are only a few weeks left. First up, we have Jacksonville at Kansas City. Obviously, Jacksonville coming off that big comeback win. Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions and then leads his team all the way back. I got to tell you, I love Lawrence and ETN and those boys over there, but they're 8.5 dogs here on the road to Kansas City coming off of a bye. And if there's any kind of guarantee in this world, it's that Andy Reid wins off of a playoff bye. Mitch, I'm going to throw it back to you here. And, who do you got in this one?
So Jacksonville and Kansas City played, I think, less than 2 months ago. Kansas City was I think, a 9-point favorite, and they covered. I will say I think Jacksonville has a lot of momentum. However, I think with that right now, they're still very early on in what they want to do. They're still a couple pieces away. I'd like to see one more big playmaker in the back end of the defense. I love for them to add, one more big weapon in the passing game. I think Jacksonville's going to compete, but if they have another iffy start like against the Chargers, it's going to be really ugly. I think the Chiefs pull this out. I think Jacksonville's going to cover, though. It's going to be tight. I think the 8.5 line is super, super fair based off where both teams are at. But for me, I like the Chiefs win, Jaguars cover.
Yeah, for me as well, I got to go Chiefs here. I do think it's the obvious choice. I don't know if everybody is still reeling from last year when Cincinnati was sort of that hot team in the playoffs. I think right now, if you're going to talk about a hot team, it is Jacksonville. They are that hot underdog, but I kind of see it coming to an end here. I don't see them taking down Kansas City, especially on the road. Patrick Mahomes in that environment, a sold-out arena. It's just going to be too much to overcome. Next up, down the line here, we got New York Giants taking on Philly. Philly is a 7.5-point favorite over their fellow New York Giants. Mitch, what are you looking at in this one?
So first things first, I don't know if you noticed last week with divisional matchups, the dogs covered. Basically, every time you had a division matchup, Miami and Buffalo were a perfect example of that. The thing with Philadelphia, I really like what they have for their roster. I think it's especially offensive line. I'm a huge Jason Kelsey fan because I was an interior lineman back in the day. This thing with the Philadelphia team reminds me a lot of my Pittsburgh Steelers in 2020. Super hot starts, super physical, find ways to win games, but then all of a sudden the injury bug starts to catch up. And you get these veteran players that might be getting a little tired. And Jalen Hurts, since he's come back from the injury, I've never been huge on him. Sure, the offense is so dynamic with him. But we saw last year, too, in a big playoff environment, Philly kind of fell out flat. I think the Giants are very similar to Jacksonville, where they're still a couple pieces away, especially a wide receiver, which I think is really, really obvious. But if New York can match Philadelphia's physicality on both sides of the ball, which I think they can, it wouldn't shock me if the Giants pull an upset here. I feel one of these 1 seeds are going down, and I feel like this could be the matchup it is. I'm flirting with the money line hardcore. I think the Giants cover, and you know what? Why not? I've called some crazy upsets so far this season. I'll call it right now. New York Giants walk into Philly and stun the Eagles.
Yeah, Mitch, I think, you're right on the button there. Again, New York is another one of those teams here in these playoffs that absolutely has the potential to pull an upset like this. That's not where I'm going in this game. I've been Philly all year. If anybody's been reading, if anybody has been paying attention, I am on the Philadelphia train here. I do believe in the New York Giants, but unfortunately what I also believe is that the Eagles have a better offense, defense, and Jalen Hurts over Daniel Jones every day of the week. And if Jalen Hurts is healthy, I don't see it happening. You talk about 2 blowout wins in the regular season, 48-22 and 22-16 in favor of Philly over the Giants both times. Again, I don't know if it's going to be that bad. I do think the Giants are going to cover in this one, but I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to win and advance to the championship game. Obviously next up here we've got Buffalo versus Cincinnati, a game that we all wanted to see a few weeks ago, but with Damar Hamlin and the injury there, and obviously just the very scary nature of that entire situation, it was rightfully canceled. In my opinion, it should have been canceled far earlier. I don't think those discussions needed to take place. In this situation, in the playoffs, divisional round here, Buffalo is a 4.5-point favorite at home against Cincinnati. Mitch, who do you got in this one?
Tyler Bass wins it up a walk-off. I think everyone's since Von Miller went down, I think people have been kind of sold their stock on this Buffalo defense. But when you look at what they have and the way they've been built, this Buffalo defense has been one of the top 10 in the league for the past 7 to 8 years. I mean, before they got Josh Allen, this unit was top 5 ranked. And you're looking at Cincinnati that, you're without Alex Kappa, you're without Lyle Collins, you're without Jonah Williams. 3 starters in the offensive line that's just played tremendously better this year. We saw against Baltimore, if you can find I don't think Cincinnati is as good in the trenches as they were about 3 weeks ago when they were supposed to play. And if you look at Buffalo, I think Greg Rousseau is due for a breakout game. He was a first-round pick back a couple years ago. I like Buffalo winning in the trenches, but I think it's going to be a really tight, competitive game. It's going to come down to a field goal. So Buffalo wins, but Cincinnati covers. That's how I see it going out.
Okay. I got to be honest, again, going in the opposite direction here. I've got Cincinnati. I do like Joe Burrow in that offense. Jamar Chase and those boys. Obviously, Joe Mixon back there as well. This is a really, really tough game on the road. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it's very easy, to sit here and say, Buffalo will win as well. It obviously is sort of a toss-up. I don't know that 4.5 is anything other than the fact that Buffalo is playing at home. I think that's a bit of a home cooking line right there, and Vegas is tempting you to take that. The one thing to look for in this game is obviously offensive firepower. I mean, this is going to be a fun game to watch. Both teams rank in the top 10 in the NFL in points per game, offensive yards per game, and passing yards per game during the regular season. This is going to be really fun. Now, I have some interesting Joe Burrow statistics here that I want to go over to help my case. Joe Burrow versus AFC North teams is 4-3. He averages 257.9 passing yards per game, 13 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Against non-AFC North teams, he is 9-1, 287.9 passing yards per game, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Against teams that are not used to facing him, he tends to blow up. And in the very small sample size that we did have in that game, Burrow was 4 for 4, 52 yards and a touchdown. I think Cincinnati gets the edge here. And same scenario, I do think it's the other way, though, and Evan McPherson kicks a field goal to win it for Cincy.
My only issue with Cincy is I don't trust that secondary either. Eli Apple's about to get cooked again, but that's just my personal opinion.
Well, you're not wrong there. Eli Apple's been getting cooked for a few years here.
All right, so bring us on home here. Last game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We've got a great game to end it here. San Francisco versus Dallas. The 49ers are a 3-point favorite. Again, probably a little home cooking there. I think Vegas is not really sure where this is going to go. And I'm not entirely sure that I know where it's going to go either. But, Mitch, I'll let you go first here. Who do you got?
Okay, remind me again, what was the spread here?
49ers are a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm taking San Francisco all day. And I swear, if Kellen Moore calls another quarterback draw with 16 seconds left and no timeouts, I will laugh so hard. But, look, let's be honest with this Cowboys team. Could you make a case that the Cowboys from week 1 to now have really improved? They've really gotten better?
No, I don't believe
San Francisco, you can make that case, I feel. Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy, but look, with this offense, the way this whole team is built, as long as you have a guy that doesn't turn the ball over, as long as you have a guy that can distribute the ball to the playmakers they have, which is a long list, which I would take on 3 more minutes just explaining all that. especially San Francisco at home and it's locked down as they've been in the second half. Yes, Dak bounced back nicely last week against Tampa Bay, but that was against, I don't know what Tom Brady was. That's a shell of himself. That was really hard to watch.
He's 45 years old.
Especially with him haunting my nightmares AFC for basically my entire life. It's like, that's not fair. Where's the real Brady at? Come on. I just don't know if Dallas has the depth up front to continue to match that physicality for 4 quarters. I don't know if they have the pieces to try and bottle up Christian McCaffrey for a full 60 minutes. I'm taking San Francisco. I'm taking the points. San Francisco wins outright. I think they got in the bag.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And I'm sticking with it because this is the Dallas Cowboys. Let's not forget. I mean, you just brought it up, the quarterback draw from last year that everybody was laughing at. It's not often that people find a reason to unite on the internet, but after that play, we did. It's Dallas. They're going to make a mistake. It's going to be funny. And Mike McCarthy's coaching for his job. And when he does lose this game, unfortunately, I do believe Dallas is also going to be letting him go. Although I don't believe he's the right coach for them as well. I think this is an easy pick. This is San Francisco in the points. They're definitely covering Christian McCaffrey. Also, it's easy to root for a guy like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy over Dak Prescott every day. And let's see what this kid's got in a big-time spot.
All right, so wrap this up here. We're going to talk one last thing. So, McLain and I are each going to get one thing off our chest about something Michigan sports related. Mr. Moberg, I'll give you the floor first.
Oh, man, this was easy for me. I mean, this is Michigan State basketball. There's not many things on the planet that fires me up more than that. I want to take us back to Friday, Michigan State versus Illinois. MSU had a significant lead over Illinois. They were on the ropes. This is a team that was slipping and slipping, losing some games. Michigan State had the knockout blow, or at least appeared to. And then over the final 13 minutes of the game, they were outscored 34-16. A.J. Hoggard, the point guard over there, had a great game. Big buckets late with 20 points. Couldn't cut it, though. And it was an entirely inexcusable loss to be up that big on the road in the Big Ten and to let that slip away. You don't win Big Ten championships doing that. And then they come home and they play an amazing game. I mean, it is an inspired game against the number 3 ranked Purdue Boilermakers. Walker goes off. I mean, this guy is in his bag. Cross, fadeaway, 3-pointer, layup, up and under. It does not matter. This guy was in his bag. He scores 30 points, including 19 in the second half. The Spartans could not have played better. But 2 missed free throws from Hoggard, uncharacteristic of him late in that game. And a 3-pointer from Walker, again, played his butt off. But at one point, a 3-pointer from Walker had his foot on the line, which counted as 2, and in a 1-point loss ended up meaning a lot for this team in terms of pushing them to overtime. And now, with Rutgers on the horizon, who is solid in basketball, for those who don't know that currently, a loss at Illinois, a game that they had in hand, may result in 3 losses in a row in an already packed conference. I have one last thought on this. It's a fun fact, and I don't know how it's possible, but in 70 combined minutes against Michigan State in the past 2 games, Illinois center Dane Danger and Purdue big man 7'4" Zach Edey have a combined 0 personal fouls. And the tallest person on Michigan State's roster is like 6'9", in Mady Sissoko. Don't know how those guys played perfect basketball in 2 straight games, but neither here nor there.
So we forget my point. Let's make sure they're right. Illinois is a kid with the last name Danger.
Yes,
that is one of the coolest.
It's the greatest. It was the greatest. It's Dane Danger.
Whoo!
Yeah,
that's just. If I'm somebody in a marketing department, I am like over the moon to getting that name. But for me, one last thing here. A team I'm really passionate about, because I actually had this team's logo on my class ring in high school. I still have it. The Detroit Red Wings. Man, look at the offseason, some of the settings they made, and the moves they made. It's like, hey, we could talk about a wild card spot. I mean, you bring in like Andrew Cobb, David Perron. You gave up a 4th-round pick to try Billy Husso, who's been the best goalie. And it got off to a good start. We're sitting here now, January 18th, so I'm talking about this. Coming up with a shootout loss to the Coyotes. They're 18, 17, and 8 right now. They are, 6th in the Atlantic Division. 3-6-1 their last 10. Folks, this rebuild is still fully on. And it could be one of the most painful trade deadlines we've had in the past decade. Because let's be really honest here. Guys like Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi still are set to be free agents at the end of the year. Extension negotiations, by sounds of it, have been nothing. This could, if I'm being totally honest here, we could legit see Larkin and Bertuzzi move at the trade deadline. I get it. Larkin's the captain. It's like, how in the world could Steve Eisman trade his captain? He did it in 2014 when Martin St. Louis. The biggest difference between the two is like, okay, when Eisman took over Tampa, he had Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos built in. Hedman's the past half decade has been one of the best defensemen in the league, top 3 easy. Steven Stamkos, by the time his career is done, is going to be one of the best goal scorers of our generation. Easy done. He didn't have that going into Detroit. Larkin, Bertuzzi are both Ken Holland guys. There's not really much loyalty to these guys. And the value they bring, like Bertuzzi's that sandpaper guy that can get you 25, 30 goals. He's basically a notch below Matthew Tkachuk, who one of the most valuable players in the league, especially for Florida right now. And then Larkin could be a second-line center for a really good contender. Like, if the Avalanche want to splurge and maybe throw him behind Nathan McKinnon, how fast would that be in their top 6? Holy smokes. But there's still a lot of value with these guys. So, just Wings fans, just please beware. This rebuild is still in full effect. Connor Bedard is still up there in the draft. This is probably going to be the most painful Detroit sports trade deadline since 2017, the Tigers. Except this time, we have a competent GM at the helm. Instead of trading Verlander for, scraps.
It's a very interesting situation, Mitch. And Detroit sports are funny, aren't they? Earlier this year, you take it all the way back to last year, right? When sports were first starting and whatnot, and pitchers and catchers, and we thought the Tigers were going to win some games. They end up being one of the worst teams in the league. We thought the Wings were going to be a little better than they were this year. We thought the same thing about the Pistons, but then the Cade Cunningham injury obviously puts them on their butts. And what was everybody doing? There's obviously optimistic Detroit Lions fans in this state. There always is. But a large majority of people that I talk to and people that I listen to thought this Lions team was going to be really, really bad. And they ended up being the best team that the state had to offer professionally. Yeah. It's just funny to see how it all works out.
Now, I will give the Wings credit here. They now only rank, they're still like the bottom 10 in goals for, but there's like 10th worst. It's progress. They're like right in the middle of the pack in goals allowed, because last year was just, brutal. There's growth there, but these pieces are still really, really young. Like, Raymond and Sider are the building blocks here. You still got some guys coming in, so, yeah. It's hard to watch this Wings team. I don't watch them a whole lot, I'll be dead honest here, but still, it's going to be maybe one of the roughest trade deadlines we've ever seen here as Detroit sports fans, at least in our lifetime. But I won't cry like I cried when Chauncey got traded. That still stings very deep to me. But anyway, enough of my trauma here. Thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of the Sports Advocates McLain. Are you happy we finally got this knocked out of the way?
Absolutely, man. I had a blast. I can't wait to do it again.
All right. I'm right sure that's to men fully. Thank you so much for listening to us and helping us on this crazy journey we call life. But until we see each other or listen to each other again, from McLain Moberg, I'm Mitch Vosburg. Keep your stick in the ice.